Zhezhi is the newest 5-star limited character that was just released alongside Wuthering Waves 1.2 patch update, and in this video I'm going to give you all the information that you need to decide whether or not you should pull for her. Feel free to skip ahead in the video to the flowchart section. However, if you do that, you'll be missing the context of why Zhezhi is such a good character and why she may or may not be for you. And you'll be killing my video watch time, which will in turn make me sad. And on that note, what's up guys? I'm Solus. Let's get right into today's content. First things first, we're going to cover Zhezhi's kit and playstyle. Zhezhi's kit does have some complexity to it, especially if you read everything, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to keep it to her simple rotation, which is probably both what you and I will do for like 90% of the time. You can learn the more nuanced complexities of her kit over time as you play her, so don't worry, this will be more than enough to get you started. Her kit revolves around her forte, her ultimate ability or resonance liberation, and her outro skill. Her forte gauge has 3 stacks and you fill them up with her intro skill and with her basic attacks. So ideally you begin her rotation with her intro skill followed by 3 basic attacks, which should be enough to fill her forte gauge completely. At this point you pop her resonance skill, which will create 2 of these birds, one to the right and one to the left. You follow up immediately with another basic attack, which will create another bird in the middle, so a total of 3 birds. Now when you press her skill, she will teleport to whichever of the birds you are pointed at while performing a coordinated attack. This becomes a form of skill expression because you can use this to avoid enemies and to move around quickly. But essentially you want to use all 3 of these as fast as you can to maximize her damage and her concerto energy regeneration. If her ultimate is up, use it at the end of this combo. It provides coordinated attacks while Zhezhi is off field. And when her concerto is full, swap out to your main DPS to make use of her outro skill. Now, her outro skill is very powerful. It provides a glacial damage buff for 20% and amplifies resonance skill damage for 25% for 14 seconds. The 25% extra skill damage is huge for characters like Zhezhi and Chun-Li, who rely entirely on their skill for their damage. In particular, Zhezhi is very strong with Zhezhi, who also benefits from the coordinated attacks of Zhezhi's ultimate. Now let's talk about Zhezhi's best weapons and echo builds. Zhezhi's best weapon, huge shocker, is going to be her signature weapon, Rhyme Draped Sprouts. If you don't have enough Astrites to pull her weapon, but you have Yinlin's signature weapon, the Strain Master, there's a good argument that you can just use that and you don't need to pull for Zhezhi's weapon. In fact, that is what I am currently using on my Zhezhi because your boy is broke. If you have neither of those weapons, but you happen to have the standard banner rectifier, Cosmic Ripples, that is also a perfectly fine choice. Now, if you just straight up don't have any of those 3 weapons, there are still a few more options for you. Go with Variation, Augment, or Guardian Rectifier, whichever of the 3 of those you have, until you manage to get one of the aforementioned weapons in the future. Now, for her echo sets, you have 2 choices based on how you want to build your Zhezhi. If you want to build her as a sub DPS / support, which is what I would recommend, you're going to want to put the Moonlit Cloud set on her. This helps with her energy regen, as popping her ultimate as often as possible is important for her juicy off-field coordinated attacks, as well as buffing the damage of your next character, which will be your main DPS. For her main 4-cost echo, you're going to use Impermanence Heron with a crit rate or crit damage substat. For her 3-cost echoes, you want to prioritize main stats of either energy regen or glacial damage. For my build, I found that using 1 echo main stat of energy regen and 1 echo main stat of glacial damage has worked the best for me. For her 1-cost echoes, prioritize damage main stat. And for all her echo substats, you want to be looking for crit rate, crit damage, energy regen, and basic attack damage bonus, as these will best amplify her kit. If you happen to get amazing energy regen rolls on all your echoes, you could take the energy regen 3-cost echo and replace it with a glacial damage echo, so that you have 2 glacial damage echoes to maximize her personal damage. The other choice for her echo set would be the Freezing Frost echo set, and you would only use this set if you intend to maximize Zhezhi's personal damage. You'll use the Lampilumen Myriad 4-cost echo, prioritize glacial damage on her 3-cost echoes, and prioritize all the usual substats for a DPS build. You will get more use out of Zhezhi in the other configuration though, so I wouldn't recommend this unless you're a die-hard Zhezhi fan, you have some of her resonance sequences, and you intend to have her on field most of the time doing as much damage as possible. Now let's real quickly discuss her best teams. Her best team right now is going to be with Zhezhi as the main DPS. Coming in 2nd place would be Chun-Li as main DPS. And in a separate category, if you are a Lin Yang main, you absolutely want to pull Zhezhi because of her massive 20% glacial damage buff. Lin Yang also benefits a little bit from the 25% skill damage buff, as he deals a non-negligible amount of skill damage. And lastly, let's talk about future-proofing. Zhezhi is a unit that's only going to get better with time. When a new glacial damage main DPS comes out, Zhezhi will be the best in slot character for that unit for the long foreseeable future, in the same way that Yinlin will be the best in slot for any future electro DPS characters. So if that sounds enticing to you, you may want to go ahead and pull her. Needless to say, the best 3rd slot for your team is going to be Verena, and if you don't have Verena, probably Baizha. Now when Shorekeeper comes out in version 1.3, she will likely replace Verena for the best choice in that 3rd slot. Now before we get to the flowchart, let's look at a showcase. This is my Zhezhi, Zhezhi, and Verena team against Crownless 4. I'm not playing super optimally because skill issue, but you can see it gets the job done just fine.
するよ舞い上がれ同心手よ世の光にひれ伏せ海帰れ世にかなう任せてくださいいけます日向ぼっこの時間ですよチャンス大丈夫です取れちゃった打風を食らいます大丈夫ですひらめきました取れちゃった兵士されたか
Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's pull up the simple flowchart that I made to help you decide whether or not you should pull Zhezhi. If you skipped ahead to this part of the video, hey, thanks for stopping by. Please go ahead and subscribe now so that you don't miss any of my future Wuthering Waves videos and flowcharts. Here's an overview shot of the flowchart if you want to screen grab it and go through it yourself, but let's go ahead and dive into the specifics together. Starting from the top, are you free to play? We're going to start with the yes option because I assume most of the people watching this are free to play. So firstly, if you are free to play, the question to ask yourself is, are you a Lin Yang main? If yes, then Zhezhi is a must pull for you, but afterwards you should definitely reconsider your life choices. But if you are not a Lin Yang main, are you a Zhezhi main? If no, then don't pull Zhezhi. If yes, then do you have an S6 Mortefi? Mortefi at S6 provides a 20% damage buff to your entire team with his ultimate ability, and I don't have the numbers to back it up, but it probably doesn't quite stack up to what Zhezhi can do. However, I imagine that it would be close enough that it would definitely make it hard to justify pulling for Zhezhi. However, if you're looking to replace Mortefi in that team, go ahead and pull Zhezhi. If you are not looking to replace Mortefi, don't pull for her. In any other scenario for a free-to-play, it is not worth pulling her in my opinion. Now back to the top of the chart for you non-free-to-play players. If you are a whale, you've already S6'd your Zhezhi, so good for you. If you're a dolphin and you have enough resources or cash to blow to pull Zhezhi, I would recommend doing so, just because she's so fun and she's only going to improve as a unit over time. If you don't have enough money to spend or you're a sardine, follow the chart from the point over there, which I already covered, starting with are you a Lin Yang main and are you a Jinshi main. This flowchart is simple, and it is definitely possible to make it more complicated, but this should at least help give you an idea of what you want to do. And if you need more complicated specifics than this, it's likely that you're capable of figuring it out yourself, and you probably don't need me for that. Anyway, thanks for listening to me yap, like the video and subscribe. Later.